Here is a hard truth. You ready? You are going to die. I want you to imagine it. I want you to imagine right now your memorial service. Your casket sitting at the front of the room. All the people who are in attendance. Who's there? Who's talking? What are they saying? See, we're all going to die. Some of us are going to live with the intentionality to make sure we have a say with how we are remembered. That's what I'm talking about today. It's living your why, how to turn purpose into action. Thanks for listening to the Halting Winter Podcast. I'm your host, Seth Winterhalter. I want to encourage you, if you're listening to this, you may want to check out the YouTube channel. You can search for my name, Seth Winterhalter, and that will be there. You can watch my wild expressions and my antics, or if you're watching on the podcast, you can also subscribe to the audio on Apple, Spotify, all those places. We'd love for you to engage. We'd love for you to subscribe to the podcast and whatever listening, watching source you want to do. But leave a comment, would you? Leave a rating, 5-star rating. We love 5 stars. Leave a rating. That helps more people know about us. We want to be able to get some guests on, and that would be a help to be able to do that. Before we dive into our topic, real quick, you've heard about it if you listen to this podcast at all. We have a brand new program. It's specifically designed for business owners and leaders to be able to tune up the 6 major parts of your business. It's a 6-month program. This is not some quick, short, let's kind of throw you through something and hopefully something comes out. This is a 6-month program to tune up the 6 major parts of your business to do one thing, and that is double your revenue. We want businesses to grow. We want you to break free of obstacles that are hindering that growth and giving you stress and frustration. We want to help your business soar. We want to help dramatically increase the revenue and the impact your business is having. And so if that's of interest to you, you go check it out, smallbizflightschool.com. That's smallbiz, B-I-Z, flightschool.com. Apply and set up a phone call with me. I'd love to chat with you. Okay, let's dive into the topic. We're really doing it turned into a 3-part series this week. They're all one-offs, but you can kind of see the scope. We started... What did we start? We started talking about, the power of proactivity, shifting from a firefighting mentality to a gardening mentality, shifting from being reactive to all the chaos that happens in our work week, instead going, how do we tune some of that out? How do we fix some of those problems so we can become proactive to actually grow our businesses? And then last time we talked about from profit to purpose. How do we know our why, and so that the why of our business is driving growth, not just the what and the how. Today, we are so last week, or the last episode, we really talked about your business, your professional, right? The business mission, your professional mission. Today, I want to dive down into the personal mission. It's important that your personal life and your professional life are connected together. You don't want a dichotomy there where you're one way at work and rowing in one direction, and then your personal life is not. And I've seen this. This is where fractions happen in families, fractions happen in people. They're not enjoying their work because it's not really attached to who they are in their person. And so this is what you need to do. You need to work through this because you want there to be a synergy. Can I use that word? Is that word not overdone? A synergy, a connectiveness. You want your personal life and your professional life to be synced together, because when they are, man, that is powerful. That is powerful. And so let's get after it and look at that. So today, living your why, how to turn purpose into action. Discovering your personal why is just the beginning of the journey. And that's why I want the work that we're going to do in thinking about our personal why is really the igniter. It's the ignition switch to live a life of intention and purpose. When you clarify your personal why, you're then able to turn it into actions, daily actions that actually lead towards a destination. You're able to then set clear priorities, clear goals, create intentionality with every area and aspect of your life. When you know your personal why, it's going to direct you toward a profession of purpose. It's going to help you know then what are the things that you truly love? Why does it matter to go to work? And how is your work bringing the life you want into existence? So there's nothing worse than having a dichotomy between your person and your profession. We want to stop that today. So, you as a business owner and leader, a professional life aligned with your values and purpose is a powerful thing. Let me say that again. For you, because this is right, most of you listening are business owners, business leaders, executives. When your personal life is aligned with your professional life, when your values are connected to your purpose, man, you hit the jackpot. You're going to live a life that's not just intentional, but that's joyful, right? You're going to get so much more out of life. That's what we want for you. It starts with you. What are you living for? So let's go back. Let me give you two pictures, two scenes I want you to think about in your life. Let's go back to what we talked about at the beginning, right? I want you to imagine the video footage, right? I'm up, we're in a big room, and I'm up in the balcony taking the video footage of this. I want you to be up there with me. It's like Scrooge, right? The ghosts are with him and he's visiting the scenes of his life. Well, here's the scene that you're not even at yet. It's the scene of your memorial service. You are dead, right? You died. I want you to imagine you're going to die tonight in your sleep, and next Saturday, we're going to put this together real quick. Next Saturday is going to be your memorial service. And I want you to think about three specific things. I want you to think about, number one, who would show up? Who would show up to your memorial service, and why? Why do you think they would show up? Who would show up and why? Second, what would the people that spoke say? Like, think about you're sitting there watching your memorial service, and what are they saying? What do they say about you? Who's speaking from, right? Who's speaking of your family? Who's going to get up and speak on behalf of your friends? Who's going to get up and speak on behalf of the people in your work life? Who's going to get up and speak and write the various aspects and areas of your life? Who are the people that you have a relationship with, that you're connected to, and what are they going to say? Number three, how does that make you feel? How does who you see that actually showed up, and how does what they say about you, how does that make you feel? And remember, we're in the real. We're in the, if you died tonight, not if you died after you got your life all fixed up and you redeemed your relationships, and if you died tonight and your memorial service was Saturday, who do you think would actually show up? Not hope, not aspirational. Who would? And why? And what do they have to say? And how does that make you feel? Ooh. If you're honest and not aspirational, if you're honest, what do you need to tune up in your life? Okay, now, that's a great exercise. That would be a great thing to take an hour of your life, maybe today, maybe this weekend, and chew on that and be real honest with yourself. Taking a real assessment about who's in your life, who should be more in your life, that you need to bring in, right? And that's what we'll do right now. Let's do the second picture, the second scene. Imagine the footage of your memorial service if you died at 85. And if you're listening to this and you're 85, you just tack on another 10 years, okay? Because if you're listening to this, you've got to be in pretty good health. Put up with me. So let's imagine you die at 85 years old. Let's do some math. How long do you have? How long do you have until you're 85? Okay? Now, think about that. You're going to die at 85, so hopefully you got some time to do some work. And I want you to think, let's still think about that memorial service. At 85, with some time to do some work, who would you want there? Who would you want at your memorial service if you died in X number of years at the age of 85 on this date? Who would you want there? Number two, what would you want them to say? Number three, how would that make you feel? I'm sure, hopefully it'll make you feel real good because now you get to plan it. Who would you want there? What would you want them to say? And now how does that make you feel? And what's the dichotomy of how that makes you feel, something that you can plan and have some control over that would make you actually feel good in all the goods, Versus if you died tonight and had a memorial service on Saturday and were honest about who would actually be there and what would they actually honestly say if they weren't there to just be patronizing, but actually spoke in honesty. What's the dichotomy of those two feelings? The feeling of if you died tonight or if you died at the age of 85 and actually now had some time to create that picture. That's what I want you to do. I want you to live with the end in mind. See, let's be honest. Legacy is a bit overrated. At least in this big, I'm going to leave a legacy. No, you're not. No one's going to remember you. You're going to be very forgotten. Like you're going to be forgotten by your grandkids. Okay? Let's just be honest. The vast majority, vast, 99.9999999% of people are forgotten within 3 generations. Forgotten. Totally forgotten. All that lives on is some memory and maybe a name. And that may be for a generation or 2 more. Legacy is a bit overrated, but impact isn't. Impact is not overrated. You will leave a mark. Your life will leave a mark on a number of people. Every day your life leaves a mark. Sometimes a lot of that's probably not significant in a way that alters people, but you never know. You never know what a smile could do to someone. You never know what a word of encouragement can do. You never know. This is one of the powerful things just because I have, as a pastor for 20 years, I met a lot of people and I heard different stories about both good and bad things that happened to them that seem almost inconsequential that had a huge mark on them, both for good and for bad. And so I want to encourage you, just never know. Legacy is overrated, but impact isn't. You will be forgotten, but you will leave a mark. So make your mark a raving, positive, 5-star only review. That's what I want you to live for. I want you to live personally a 5-star life. The people I encounter in my life, I want them to have a 5-star review that when they go, man, if they were asked to leave a Yelp review of my impact, of my mark in their life, whether it was a 5-minute encounter or whether it was a deep friendship, I want them to say, man, that was a 5-star experience. Okay, so this is why we think, let's put the end in mind. I want a room filled with people that have 5-star experiences. And that doesn't mean, now let's be careful here. Because that doesn't mean you're trying to give 5-star experience to the world. Now, what I mean by that is you can't be best friends with everyone. And you don't want to live in a life that's so concerned about what people feel about me. Like some people are going to have a 1-star experience, but that's on them. That's not because you didn't pour out. That's not because you didn't serve. That's because they're selfish and they wanted you to operate only how they wanted. Do you hear me here? I just want to clarify because this is something I've struggled with. I have wanted in my life to make sure everyone had a 5-star review, no matter what that did to me. But what that did to me was kill me. What that did was put me in a position where I didn't give one rat's care about my personal health, about my emotional health, about my spiritual health. And I let people just run rimshot over me because I thought that was the loving thing to do. So they had a 5-star experience. But what that did was turn them into monsters. What that did was make them super selfish. And then they thought that friendships were very one way, that I existed for them and they existed just for themselves. So be careful that you don't go extreme on this. I want the people in my life that I choose to have a 5-star experience. Now, that 5-star doesn't mean that I have to be best friends. It can mean that, man, I had a half an hour meeting with you and I poured out and I encouraged and I loved you. I know I gave you 5 stars and I hope that you felt 5 stars from me. But that doesn't mean now that we got to be best friends and I got to answer every call that you give. Do you hear what I'm saying? So just be careful. I just bring that up to be careful that you don't go extreme in any way. But again, I want to make a mark on people and I want that mark to be positive, but I want that mark to be in my control. I want to be able to have boundaries in my life so that, again, because I have different people in my life, right? My children, because they're my children and my responsibility, those are then the 4 people that I'm going to make intentional effort to be 5-star above everyone else because they're the most 4 important people to me. and they're my responsibility to raise, to bring into adulthood, to make sure that they have an on-ramp towards thriving in their personal and professional life, right? So I need to be invested in them in a far greater degree than I am to anyone else. And so that there's some boundaries there. I'm not treating everyone like my children, but I have friends then, and they're on this second circle. So you need to kind of make some circles, right? This is, again, about looking at the memorial service and going, who's there? Well, you can't just have all of them inside the same circle. You got to create some circles, because then you got to know how you're going to engage. You got to make some priorities and some boundaries so that you know how that 5-star experience is going to, what you can actually give to those people to actually make a 5-star experience, to leave a 5-star mark on their life. Are you tracking? This is the project. This is the work. We look at the end and figure out who matters to us and why. And then we reverse engineer and we start to create real life circles and go, okay, if I say my kids are the most important thing, or the 4 most important people to me, then what does my time with them look like? And be careful here. That doesn't mean that you have to spend the most time with those people, because let's be honest, I part of my loving them the most is about providing for their life. So that means I have to work to do that, which means if I just wanted to love them by time spent, I would quit work and just do nothing but spend my time with them. But that's not going to actually care for them, because they're going to go hungry. They're not going to have opportunities because they have no cash, no ability for financial investment to learn, to grow, to have needs taken care of. So you have to, this is why this is a project. You have to figure out who's in the most inner circle and what are the circles of relationships in my life, and then how do I serve those relationships best? What am I able to offer in light of all the things in my life, and what does that look like, right? This becomes, again, you don't have to get so granular. Some of you are very artistic, like myself, and you're not very graph minded, right? When I start to look at an Excel graph, I just get tired. I'm just like, But here's the thing. It's needed. It's necessary to get kind of granular in this, because otherwise you're just going to go through it organically and it's never going to have a plan, and you're probably never going to have the intention that you want. Okay. So we want to live intentional lives. So let's actually do some work to go who's in these circles. And then now that I look at all these circles, I've got my family, I've got my children, my family, my friends, my work. I've got clients at work. I've got employees at work. I've got my executive team at work. I've got, all these kind of different, because it's not just work in one circle. There's different circles inside that circle. Now, all of a sudden, I'm able to reverse engineer and break things into parts. First, let me just be honest. First, so let's dive into this a little bit. Get out some paper. If you have paper and pen, draw 2 circles. The very first thing you do is you imagine the memorial service. You do the 2 things I said. You imagine it now if you died tomorrow, and you imagine it in however many years you have until you hit 85. Let's just say, for me, I'd be 40. Let's say I got 40 years left. And so what can I do in 40 years? Who do I want there in 40 years? And again, I don't know everyone I'm going to meet in 40 years, but I'm going to do the exercise now. In light of now, where I'm at now, who would I want there to be in 40 years? And what would that look like for their life, right? I would hope in 40 years that my kids have some kids. And so my grandkids, even though I haven't met them yet, they're going to be there. And I want them there, and I want them to say things. I want them to say specific things about how I am as a granddad. And so, do some work. And then do this. Now that you have a picture in mind of what you want the end of your life to look like, what you want that memorial service to look like, who you want there, and what you want them to say, now we reverse engineer and we do 2 things. So let's draw a circle. The first thing is 2 circles. The first circle is your personal life, and the second circle is your professional life, right? Now the second thing, you got those 2 circles, personal and professional. Now we're going to break it down into sections. The first section you're going to think about is yourself. You're going to think body, mind, soul, physical, mental, emotional. How am I going to serve myself in these 2 areas? How do I make sure that my personal life is connected to my professional life? Physical, mental, emotional. What are What are the values of my life in those spheres? How do I want to operate? Does your work allow you to operate in those spheres? Does your personal allow you to operate in those spheres? What's important to you? And here's the thing. This is why I say, again, this is a more, you can really blow up. And I want to be careful on this podcast because it'll turn into a 3-hour-long podcast. You might even struggle with this because you're like, we start with me? What do you mean? Don't we start with others? No, because you have to fill your cup to have anything to pour out. And I see this. I think, again, I talked about this in the podcast this week about money. Like, oh, we can't go after profit. We can't grow our business because then we'll just look like we're profit hungry and money hungry. Why do you think that? Because of shame. Because there's this shame in our culture that says money's evil. And that's dumb. Go listen to the podcast. Here's the thing. It's the same thing here. Oh, I can't care for myself first. I have to be selfless. Listen, if you aren't physically, mentally, and emotionally healthy, you're going to have nothing to pour out of your cup with. There's a difference between selfish and mindful about how to fill up your cup. So I'm not saying you got to fill up your cup and let it, you're right. I'm not saying you got to have a huge big gulp, right? Be careful that you're not like, well, you know what? I'm not going to be physically healthy until I'm 6-pack and all I do is eat, drink, and gym. Like, okay, maybe for a season, maybe because you need to get healthy because you're extremely overweight and out of shape. But that, and hey, if someone chooses that, that's them. That's their own adventure. Don't choose their adventure for them. Some people like that. So here, you gotta decide you. Don't let anyone else's picture of what they think life is determine what you think life is. You gotta ask yourself, what does a healthy me look like? What does a healthy me physically look like, mentally look like, and emotionally look like? Because when those 3 areas are dialed in, you're going to give the best to people. And I don't know about you, but I want to give the best. And so I'm not concerned anymore. I used to be. Man, I could go on a hobby horse for hours about how I used to be so concerned about how others thought of me. And I was so concerned about the actions of my life, what I did and didn't do, that I almost killed myself. Kill myself in a way, I wasn't suicidal, kill myself in that I drove myself physically into the ground because I was so afraid that I would look self-consuming. Oh, I didn't want to, he's just vain about it. And I get this. I lost 100 pounds. I was 100 pounds overweight, stressed out of my life, could barely get out of bed anymore in the morning because I had no energy. I was a mess physically, which impacted my mental, which impacted my emotional. And I finally said, I got to get into shape. I gotta stop caring. I gotta stop. And again, a lot of my assumptions were false anyway. Just remember that too. There are plenty of people that will attack you, but there are few, right? And those people suck. And just call them out for their sucking. I just have no patience for that kind of people anymore. And so if I see them doing stuff, it's just automatic. Like, I just don't care about losing because you're like, oh, what if I lose my friends? Those people aren't your friends. Okay. People that want to act like that are not your friends. I would use stronger words, but right, we don't want to get censored. So they're just jackalopes. So you tell the jackalopes that are somehow in your life to go jackalope off into the forest plains of wherever the jackalopes exist, because that's where they get to go. You get to be in the real world where you actually get to be an adult and make decisions about you, the way you want to live life, the things that are important to you. And again, if those are unhealthy things, then yeah, maybe friends could speak into that. Like, hey, I don't think it's a good idea. Like, you know what? I love bourbon. And so I'm going to drink, a liter of bourbon every night. Okay, well, hey, nothing wrong with loving bourbon. Don't know if that's the best decision for you. How is that impacting life? Yeah, okay. Like, that's a good friendship. But someone saying like, oh, well, how can you drink bourbon at all? Like, like you go live in your Fuddyville where, hey, you don't need, I'm not telling you to drink bourbon. I'm not telling you, like, you go do you, right? But don't judge me and tell me because you have some convictions that aren't really, they aren't healthy. I don't think they're healthy. They're not healthy because you can choose those and that can be healthy for you, but for you to inflict your, like, it's like, everyone's got to do CrossFit. Why? Because it's CrossFit. Great. You do CrossFit. You jump around and do that weirdness on the pull-up bar all you want. I applaud you because it looks like it's keeping you healthy, but don't tell me that that's the only way to work out. And that's the only way that if I don't do it, that I'm not physically, at my best. there's a lot of weirdness in the world, and we got to cut through that crap because, right, we're all different. We all have different passions. We all have different desires. And so, again, hobby horsing to death here and going way too long. But I think it's important. It's important for you because there are jackalopes in the world who will try to get you to do them. And the problem is they don't even do them. It's so interesting, like, oh, you have to eat this way. It's like, well, you obviously don't eat that way either, you fat cow. Okay, so just be careful. Let's go back. Self. Prioritize yourself, not in a selfish way, but in a way that allows you to fill up your cup so you can give the best to people. Number 2, then, once you first divide your personal into 3 sections, you can divide into self. How am I physically, mentally, and emotionally thriving? Number 2, relationships. What does my marriage look like? What do my children look like? What are my extended family? What are my friends? What is my, what's outside of friends? Maybe friendly acquaintances. Friendly acquaintances. There we go. Right? There are different levels. Friends is a broad bucket that needs to be broken down into levels and areas. And number 3, then, once you look at yourself, once you look at your relationships, then you look at your purpose. What's my civic engagement, right? Maybe you go to church. Maybe you're a part of some nonprofits. Maybe you're, right, your neighborhood. There's some ways that you, I would hope, are engaging in the world around you. And then you think about professional. And this is now the lines back from our first one, we have a professional life and we have a personal life. And our person, once we kind of figure out ourself and our relationships, part of those relationships are coworkers. Part of those relationships, right? Now it's going to blur into, and the circles are going to cross over into my professional life. How does my physical, mental, and emotional state impact my professional, right? So now these lines are going to start to blur a little bit. And now we're going to take the big picture, that end, right, the memorial service, and we're going to work our way back and go, okay, what actionable steps do I need to take to care for myself so that I'm the best version of myself and I'm continually growing? Because that's another thing. We want to be growing. We don't want to be stagnant, because if we're stagnant, how do we expect the things to grow around us to become healthier if we're not growing, right? I want my business to grow, so I've got to grow. I want my relationships to grow, so I have to grow. I want to be more impactful with my life. So I want to grow to be able to keep up with that increasing impact. Healthy things grow. Are you growing? Are the things around you growing? Right? Okay. Now you should have clarity on what you can do and what you can't or won't do. Right? You know what you can do. Here's what I can do. Here's what I can give. But I have boundaries. I can't do that. I won't do that. Because, right, that's going to betray who I am and where I'm going. Like, if I want these people at my memorial service saying these things, then I'm going to have to cut out some people in my life. Or I'm going to have to severely limit my time with people because they aren't inner circle people. I got to make sure I'm prioritizing the inner circle. Got to make sure I'm prioritizing. I said that for me to love these people well and serve these people well, I've got to be this kind of person. Am I giving enough time for me to be that person? Right? And there is enough time to do this. If you say, oh gosh, that's my problem, I don't have enough time. No, you're just wasting too much time. This is a real, for those who are like, man, I just don't have the time. This is a great exercise because it's going to all of a sudden tell you where you can and where you can't spend time. It's going to help you make decisions and go, okay, I am wasting a lot of time. We waste so much time with work. Like this idea of a work day is 8 hours, 9 to 5. Stop it. Stop it. Now, I get that there is some work that has to take place in those hours, and so some jobs are those. But you have a lot of people have a lot more flexibility, and we're seeing that because of the pandemic and working from home. But, like, don't sit at a desk just because it's work time. Sit at a desk because that desk is actually allowing you to get some stuff done that's moving things forward. You hear me? And go to the gym when it's convenient to all the other things. Why do we got to go to the gym at 5 o'clock? Why can't I go at 2? Oh, because you have to sit in your cubicle at 2. No, I don't. Not unless, right? And why can't I call a customer at 8? Maybe that's a better time for that customer. I don't know. Just be careful not to put yourself into blocks and bags that hinder you from actually growing. I think that's part of growth too, just getting out of the dumb structures that we tell ourselves, well, this is the way it's always been. If I hear that, I'm automatically going to push back and go, well, that's a sign that how it's been is not to grow. not to be successful. So let's break out of that. Okay. All these podcasts, whenever I start talking about like real life stuff, it's just I go way too long. So you just have to forgive me. Hopefully you put this on like 2x speed and you're just flying through. Okay, so what I want to say, there are seasons in life. So just, some seasons you're going to give more to areas. And so there is no such thing as perfect balance. I hear that, we need to be balanced. Yes, but the problem with balance is everything has to be equal. And that's just not, think about this. You sleep for 8 hours a day. You don't eat for 8 hours a day. So it's unbalanced. And that's good. You don't want to eat 8 hours a day. So balance is, I don't think the proper word, because it gives us a bad vision of like everything's got to be balanced and equal. No, it needs to live in the tension, right? Think about a rubber band. I can pull that rubber band, has slack. And then as I pull it out, it increases its tension, and I can choose to pull it this way. So, hey, it's this season at work and we're doing this big project. We got this big launch. So there's a lot of stretch going this way. So guess what? The other sides have to give a little bit. Man, that project launched, it's up and going. I need to give back to some areas that I've had a little neglect in. You got to be mindful of where the attention of that rubber band's going. And that's why it's important to think about your life in its person and its profession, so you don't let profession dominate. And then your family and your relationships and yourself always get the short end of the stick. You need to be going, hey, I'm going to do a season here where this is going to be a 3-week, a 2-month, a 90-day stretch, but then I'm going to with as much tension as I pulled there, I'm going to pull back here. We're going to go on vacation. We're going to get some just you and me time. We're going to get right. You got to be aware then, because otherwise you're always going to say yes to work. This is what I see with most people who are high level at work. They always say yes to work, and the other areas always have to take up the slack, and you're going to get to the end of your life and you're going to have a lot of regrets. Don't do that. Be more mindful about going, hey, I'm going to give here for this season, but this is the clear season. And then there's time for us. Then there's time for this. And this is why I say, man, this is why having a coach is so important, because an executive coach it keeps you accountable and helps you work through the reality of it. How do I do this in real time? And this is what I do with all my clients, is I don't just want to talk work. I want to talk about all of life, because all of life has stresses that you bring to work. All of life has realities that are going to impact your work. So let's know the whole you, so we can actually make your life count. So we can actually do the things that matter most to get you to that memorial service that actually would make you feel proud of the life that you lived and the impact that you had. Okay? Perhaps you need help. Perhaps you're like, man, I do not have a plan personally. In fact, when I think about my life, when I think about my memorial service, I think I'm going to have regrets. And goodness gracious, I don't want that. And so let's help. And this is what we do. This is, in fact, the very first things we do in flight school. We look at your personal life, we look at your professional life, and we figure out, let's create the bridge. Let's create a plan to row forward so that we can make sure that if we're going to grow your business, it's going to grow in health. If we're going to double your revenue, that's going to double because of health. That you need to maximize your own life, right? Look at my offer statement. What I do, if you want to summarize the mission of my life, I help business owners grow their business, 2x their revenue, and 10x their life. That's why that's there, because I'm not interested in just growing your business at the expense of your life. Your life matters. And when your life is dialed in, your business will be dialed in, and you'll make more money and you'll have more impact. So if that's of interest to you, come join Flight School, smallbizflightschool.com. That's where you can check it out. You can schedule a call with me, and we will chat and see if that's the fit for you to help you and your business soar higher, farther, and faster than ever before. Take action today. Start with your why. Personally, what does the end of your life look like? Let's create a plan to bring that into reality. Then start with the why of your profession and go, why does my business exist? What problem am I solving? And how does my personal why impact my professional why? How can I get those two things, like two reins of a stagecoach? How do I get those two things working in tandem together? Okay, tune in next week and we'll continue to talk about things that are going to help you personally and professionally soar higher, farther, and faster than ever before. Until next time.